There's a version of you that you've never met. It lives in the reactions you can't explain. The anger that comes from nowhere, the jealousy you'd never admit to, the desires you've trained yourself not to feel. You think you're in control? You think you know yourself? You don't. Let me ask you something. Have you ever overreacted to a minor slight? Felt a wave of rage at someone who reminded you of something? Found yourself drawn to people who hurt you, or repulsed by people who seem too good? That's not random. That's not you being sensitive or having a bad day. That's your shadow. And Carl Jung called it the shadow because every quality you've rejected, every impulse you've buried, every part of yourself you decided was unacceptable, you didn't kill those parts. You just stopped looking at them. And here's what nobody tells you. Whatever you bury doesn't die. It grows. In the dark. Feeding on your denial. You weren't born with a shadow. You created it piece by piece. Starting probably around age 5 or 6. Every time someone said that's not appropriate. We don't do that in this family. What will people think? You learned. You learned that parts of you were unacceptable. So you made a deal. An unconscious negotiation. I'll bury this part of me, and in exchange, I'll be loved. Accepted. And safe. Your anger? Unacceptable. Your selfishness? Shameful. Your sexuality? Dangerous. Your ambition? Threatening. Your sadness? Weak. So down they went, into the basement of your psyche. But here's the thing about basements, just because you locked the door doesn't mean what's down there stopped existing. It just stopped being something you controlled. And you know what's fascinating? The things you judge hardest in others? That's your shadow speaking. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That person who's too confident? Maybe you buried your own voice. That friend who's too selfish? Maybe you never learned to prioritize yourself. That coworker who's too emotional? Maybe you've been performing strength for so long you forgot what vulnerability feels like. This is projection. Your shadow, desperately trying to show you what you won't acknowledge in yourself. The ultra-religious leader obsessed with sexual sin? Probably suppressing their own desires. The militant health advocate who shames others? Often hiding their own sense of inadequacy. The person who constantly calls out toxic behavior? Sometimes avoiding their own capacity for harm. Whatever you exile from consciousness doesn't disappear. It returns. Disguised. In your obsessions, your compulsions, your inexplicable attractions and repulsions. Now here's where it gets really uncomfortable. The more good you try to be, the more dangerous your shadow becomes. Think about it. The person who never gets angry? That rage is still there, it's just leaking out sideways. Passive aggression. Concerned trolling. Silent treatment. Resentment that poisons everything they touch. The person who's never selfish? They're often the most manipulative. Weaponizing their martyrdom, guilting others, collecting debts of gratitude they'll cash in later. Carl Jung put it perfectly. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. The more you identify with being harmless, peaceful, enlightened, evolved, the more your shadow grows in the darkness. Because you're not transcending your darker impulses. You're just denying them. And that's when the shadow starts running the show. You become what Jung called possessed by the unconscious. You're the nice guy who explodes out of nowhere. The peaceful person who's cruel in subtle ways. The enlightened one who's actually just spiritually bypassing their trauma. So what's the solution? Here's what most people get wrong. They think the goal is to become harmless. It's not. A sword is dangerous. But a sword that's been properly forged, sharpened, and wielded by someone trained? That's power under control. That's disciplined danger. The goal isn't to remove your capacity for anger, it's to know when and how to use it. The goal isn't to kill your selfishness, it's to recognize when self-preservation is necessary. The goal isn't to be incapable of manipulation, it's to choose honesty even when you could get away with lies. See a harmless person? They are harmless because they are weak. They have no other option. But a dangerous person who chooses restraint? That's someone with agency. That's someone with actual power. Your shadow contains your potential. Your rage? That's your boundary-setting capability. Your selfishness? That's your self-advocacy. Your capacity for cruelty? That's your ability to protect what matters. Your darkness? That's your depth. When you integrate your shadow, when you acknowledge these parts instead of burying them, you don't become worse. You become whole. You become real. So how do you do this? How do you face what you've been running from? First, notice your reactions. When you feel a surge of judgment toward someone else, pause. Ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that I've denied in myself? Second, befriend your projections. The things you're obsessed with, either positively or negatively. Those are clues. What you hate in others, you've suppressed in yourself. What you idealize in others, you've disowned as impossible for you. Third, and this is the hardest one, tell the truth. Not the truth that makes you look good. The real truth. The one where you admit, I am capable of cruelty. I am capable of selfishness. I am capable of rage. I am capable of cowardice. Not because you're going to act on all of it, but because denying it gives it power over you. Fourth, practice conscious choice. Once you acknowledge these parts exist, you can choose when and how to use them. Your anger becomes a tool, not a trap. Your selfishness becomes self-care, not shame. Your darkness becomes depth, not destruction. And here's what it comes down to. You have a choice, but it's not the choice you think. You can't choose whether or not you have a shadow. You already do. The choice is, will you carry it consciously, or will it carry you? Will you face the disowned parts of yourself and integrate them into someone whole, complex, and real? Or will you keep performing goodness while your shadow pulls the strings behind the scenes? Because here's the truth. Jung spent his whole life trying to tell us, what you refuse to carry consciously will carry you unconsciously. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort? That's your shadow asking to be seen. Drop a comment below and tell me, what part of your shadow did you recognize in yourself today? No judgment here. We're all working through this. And if you want to keep doing this work, hit the subscribe button, because we're going deeper. Like, comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's normalize being whole instead of pretending to be perfect.